And we're back.
Hey, Vertical. Oh, that's your line.
I said yours, you said mine. It was great.
Look at that.
But you have to say it like, hey, Vertical.
What am I supposed to say next? Hey, how about that last episode of the Vertical Plus podcast?
It was pretty great.
Yeah. When we have guests on, it makes me feel better because it just feels like people listen to me ramble, especially.
They're used to listening to you ramble, though. I think people like that. They
you to jump in and agree
coming
so
to church
quickly.
here.
Moving on. So our guests are back, and we're going to talk more about this purity culture thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And moving in the direction of healing and what the role of therapy is in that and what that looks like, but also what the role of the church has been and should be and what we want to see happen in the church with this healing process. So
that part sounds like a trap, but we'll get involved with it anyway.
We will censor you. Yeah. It's okay.
And just as a caveat before we get into this, I personally go to therapy. You go to therapy. Mm-hmm. Therapy is something we do at Vertical Church, right?
Yes.
So to be able to talk about this, it's a little bit in the vein of if you are scared of therapy, let us convince you that there are good things that happen at a therapist's office. At a good therapist's office.
Yes.
So we actually have, look, oh my gosh, we have a therapist here.
We do. And
what are the
bet
odds?
She'll tell us
so
a little bit about therapy.
Yeah, you'll be able to walk us through that.
I got a few.
Yeah, let's get rolling because I think the curiosity is peaked here. Like, okay, describe the problem, experience the problem. We've all been through the problem. All right, enough with the problem, at least in an episode. Let's get to solutions and how we start to solve the problem, right?
Yep.
So someone pursues therapy or should pursue therapy. Like, how does this go? What does this look like?
Yeah. So what I would say to someone who's looking for specifically a therapist that specializes in sexual trauma or any type of trauma, I would make sure that they have the correct credentials for that because there is some specialized training that can go along with it. I think everyone generally has some type of understanding of what trauma is and what it does to you and how to work through that. But if you have been through what we call complex trauma, which is little t after little t after little t, or multiple big T traumas that have occurred to you over time, you probably want to go to someone who is specialized in it and has the correct training. Because I'm not going to lie, it's a difficult journey to go through therapy. But as I think I've heard Reshma say this over and over, it's like when you go through the most difficult points, there's so much growth that occurs after that. And yeah, you want to have someone who knows how to guide you through that effectively. But so there's a lot of reasons why people can go to therapy after a traumatic event has happened. One of the minor things, I'll get to the kind of the major thing in a minute, is to kind of get a new perspective on what actually happened when the trauma occurs. There's a lot of people who experience shame because, they think, why didn't I do this when this happened? Why didn't I yell? Why didn't I run away? And the truth is, your body was responding in a way that was just really trying to save your life. It perceived a threat and it acted in that. And so got a little demonstration to kind of show you what goes on in your brain.
I just got so nervous. Did that happen to you? I was like, oh man. Okay, go ahead.
All right. Well, it's okay. So
can our listeners do this at the
yes,
same
your
time?
listeners can do this. Okay. I'll describe it and then I'll do it toward the camera for the people who are
joining us
on YouTube.
Okay.
So you just take your hand as if you're waving to someone.
Okay.
And I'll go this way.
Yes.
And then fold your thumb over your palm.
Next to your purity ring.
That's
okay.
Yeah. And then fold your fingers over the top of your thumb. And it creates a fist. But this is actually a pretty good representation of how to explain the different parts of your brain that are affected during trauma. So we're going to open it back up. Where your wrist is that connects down into your arm, that's your body. Mm-hmm. And your body is, especially in sexual trauma, that is definitely involved in where your memories are stored and how you react. The palm right here is, it is your brain stem. And so that is where the kind of primal need to survive thoughts go through your head. Okay. You fold your thumb over, and that's your limbic system. That is the emotional part of your brain. So you have the body, you have the brainstem, which is keep us alive at all costs. You have the limbic system, which is emotion. Then when you fold your fingers over, that is what we call your cortex and prefrontal cortex. And that's where your rational thinking comes in. You know, let's say that, just for an example of how this all comes together, you're hungry. Your brainstem, like your stomach starts growling in your body. Your brainstem recognizes that you are hungry. Your limbic system comes in and says, man, this one particular food brings me so much joy, and it would be so good to have a cheeseburger right now.
Good call. Yeah. Yeah.
Can't go wrong with that. Your cortex comes in and says, okay, let's figure out where we can go get a cheeseburger right now. It's like 5 o'clock. That's a reasonable time to eat a
5
cheeseburger.
o'clock, Five Guys, cheeseburger. I see where this is going.
There you go.
Yeah.
The mapping and the connections happening right there, that's your cortex.
Okay.
So when trauma occurs, you can call it, some people call it when you flip your lid, when you have a trauma response to something. And so you can just flip up that cortex
That doesn't work.
part.
Yeah.
Because it literally goes offline when there is something traumatic happening, when your body perceives a threat. Like there's been studies done, there's fewer electrical impulses actually going to that part of your brain. So you are only reacting based off of that I have to survive and the emotion that are coming from that.
So the emotion is still there.
Yeah, the emotion is still there.
It doesn't go offline. Okay.
No. And the emotional part is actually really important in storing memory as well. So that, and then this is like a little caveat too. The tip of your thumb, you can call the amygdala of your limbic system, and that's like the fire alarm of your brain. It's what sends your body into fight, flight, or freeze mode.
Yeah.
I'm sure. I think there's a lot of people that have heard about that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, when people are talking about, man, I wish I could have done this. I wish I could have, done something differently. I wish I could have yelled. I should have told somebody.
Right.
Your brain is literally offline. Like you are doing what you needed to do to survive.
So that this allows you to give I feels like the case that you're making here is you need to give yourself some grace.
Absolutely.
As you're processing through, once you're safe, which I know is a difficult word to use talking about trauma, but once you're safe and rolling back through the experience, as you start to judge yourself, and even our court systems are bad about this. Like, well, let's talk about who's to blame here. It's this person's to blame because of the way they were dressed, or this person's to blame, all that stuff. As you're rolling through the trauma, you're like, wait a minute, I need to give myself a pass here because I've actually heard therapists reference it as the monkey brain.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. This part of my brain was just trying to keep me alive. And if my brain determined that silence was the way to keep me alive, that's what I was going to do.
Yep.
And I didn't have like all these equations rolling. I just did what my mind was telling me to do. Yeah. So I think a lot of people, you're right, they look back and judge. And it's probably a big reason why people don't pursue therapy, because that shame of somehow, and this is how we talk about it a lot, somehow this was my fault.
Yeah. And that sense of, holding on to that, like I could have done something differently. Like this is a result of my actions. I did this to myself. I think that a lot of that is retaining some control over the situation as well. Like if I think that there's something I could have done to protect myself from this, then that means that I wasn't actually a victim in this, that there's something that could have happened that I could have done to save myself. When in a lot of, I would say, in all cases, you didn't choose for that to happen to you. It's never your fault that some type of, assault occurs. So that's, yeah.
So once we get to like understanding that we can pursue talking with someone about this, even if we have those feelings of guilt and shame and all of those things, Like, all right, we've neutralized all of those things. We pursue therapy. What does that actually look like?
Yeah, so there's generally 3 stages that you can expect to happen in therapy. And the first one is safety and stability. And so you want to look for a therapist that really meshes with you. There's so many different theories of therapy out there. There's so many different modalities and treatments and stuff like that it's okay to shop around for a little bit if you don't hit it off with someone right off the bat, because you've been hurt by people and you are entrusting your story to someone. And so you want to make sure that it is someone who you can fully rely on and feel that they are capable to handle what you're giving to them. And again, that's why it's really important to pick someone who is trained in this area. And then the second part of that is stabilization. So one of the major goals of any type of therapy is to reduce reactivity, which is how we respond to what's going on in the world around us. And because of what has happened to people, they have all different kinds of symptoms that can arise. You know, some people have full-blown PTSD. They have the flashbacks and the nightmares and really disrupting life. And then some people have, there's dissociation that can occur, and there's just anxiety and depression as well. And so the main goal of this is to really just establish a connection with your therapist, and then also to figure out coping mechanisms that can help you live more normally in your daily life. Because if you are in a state of constant anxiety, if there's depression in the way, there's not really, therapy can't progress too much as far as diving into your trauma story. So we work on that first.
So is there like and that takes 3 weeks, or what is, I mean,
Yeah.
Forgive me for thinking like a man, but it's like, all right, how long is that going to take? You know, is there a set number of sessions, or? This
is not some people's favorite thing to hear, but it just takes as long as it takes, really. Some people are quick to trust and open up. Some people have really been hurt, and they want to make sure that this person can really handle what they're giving to them.
Right.
So, and what I'm saying too, this process generally happens in this order, but it can be kind of cyclical too. Sometimes once you get down the road in therapy and you've told something really big and you need a breather for a little bit, you can go back to, you know, building on that trust that you have. I think that can be frustrating for some people, that there's no prescriptive amount of time that it takes to, you know, move on from this issue, which I mean, you don't really ever move on, I guess, but where you can learn to live life after this has occurred. But it's also kind of nice because you don't have to expect to just go in immediately and just blab your whole life story to someone the first time that you meet them. So there's some leniency there. People have some flexibility in that.
Yeah.
So the first thing is to say it again. So you're looking for safety and stability. That's right.
Yep.
So that's kind of the goal. Like if I'm like listening to Vertical Plus, I'm like, man, this thing has happened. I do need to talk to someone. And we'll get to some of the stuff later. But I walk into a therapist's office. That's the main thing I'm looking to measure. You know, not like 100% disclosure of all of my story.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, let me figure out if this place is safe. You know, and is this a stable environment? And were there letters on the door that implied that this person has credentials to talk about sexual trauma?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you're looking to find someone that you can connect with. And you're looking to find someone that has the tools that can help remove some of those symptoms that you're having right now, that can help decrease them. Somebody that can give you tools to add into your own tool belt from when you're not in the therapist office.
Yeah. So is that how that's played out for you guys with therapy?
Yes.
Yeah. I think for me too. Yeah, that's how it's worked for me. All right, so that's phase one. Then we get into phase, or I don't know if they're called phases. That's my language for everything since the pandemic. But so there's like step one, step two, you get to a little bit different part of the process.
Yeah. Yeah, so step 2 is generally when you start getting into the actual trauma work. And I've heard it called remembrance and mourning, which I like. It's not quite as clinical, because that's truly what this is. It's remembering what has occurred, and really sitting in it and mourning. So this is the tough part where you do go back through your story, you do recount it. And like I said with the beginning too, you don't have to expect to disclose your whole story in one sitting too. You can do little pieces, but the idea is to go back to that brain model that we had. It's to reconnect that cortex and that rational thinking and bring that back into the memories and to understand what was actually happening at this moment. And to connect your emotions with the logical thinking of what happened too. So sometimes when people have experienced trauma, they experience it as this overwhelming emotion. And they may or may not actually have memories of what occurred, but they just have this feeling. On the other side of that, people can recall line by line what actually happened to them and have no emotion associated with it at all. So the goal is to really just kind of incorporate those two aspects to make meaning of what occurred, and to kind of rethink about some of those cognitive distortions that we talked about. Like, I could have done something wrong. I think some people also just think if I just pray about it more, then this won't affect me quite as much. If I trust in God, and that's there's obviously truth in that too. But when you go back to, understanding what is actually going on too, just learning about those tools that you have to reconnect those different parts of your brain.
So in just layman's terms, this is, correct me if I'm wrong with how you guys are hearing this, but this is kind of the walking around in the experience, like the super uncomfortable, almost visualization of the environment or what led to this or that or the other, and being able to be in that safe environment. That's why that's important, right? Okay. So you're safe here to investigate this in a way where you can roll back and kind of put some pieces together about some things, and then the messages, the way you've interpreted this in your own life. And this is often where, when we're sitting with people at a pastoral level, people bring in the interpretation of the experience by a family member or a friend that happened very close to the trauma. That's like, oh, well, that's the explanation. I'm a slut, because that's what my dad said. And that hangs around connected to the experience. And you as a therapist are trying to say, okay, let's figure out where that came from.
Yeah.
Was that person there? How did they know this? Does that sound true now, 20 years after this incident? Those sorts of things where, so that's kind of the difficult part that probably causes people to push away from therapy.
Yeah, it's when you really dive into and kind of sit in the discomfort of what happened. And it can, and just to be honest, going through this, it can bring up additional things that you've forgotten about too. But that's why we start with that safety and stability aspect of it too, because you have someone that you hopefully trust by this point of the process in the room who can remind you of those tools when they come up. And I mean, there's so many different things that you can do too. And what's interesting specifically with trauma that occurs with the body, so not just sexual trauma, but body work is also super helpful in this too. So there's trauma-informed yoga classes that you can go to kind of help reconnect like your body in that, the brain example. And so, there's a lot of resources to aid you through the discomfort in that process.
So that's surprising. That's not the end step though.
No. Mm-mm. What about when they're going through this process and they sit with a counselor? Is it recommended that, if you're married, obviously you're going home to a spouse, and so you're not alone. But if it is a single woman or a single man or a younger person, is it recommended for them to go home alone from there, or to have a safe person so that because when you're unveiling trauma after trauma and forgotten experiences, that's going to affect you later on. You know, you're with your therapist for this hour of time, but then later on into the night, you're not.
Yeah.
So how do you, what is recommended for people to not be alone, to be alone? Like what happens outside of the therapist office during this process?
That's a really good question. I think that social support is so important in the recovery process. And it's, because you only are with a therapist for an hour, hour and a half a week, and then you live the rest of those hours in your day-to-day life kind of potentially sitting in this. I don't think there's a clear-cut answer. I think that that's something that you can definitely talk with your therapist about if it's what's worked for you in the past, to be able to, you know, keep those memories at bay, to keep your emotions at a place where you can handle them. And that's definitely a good option. Some people just kind of want to be alone and go to sleep. Some people want to go for a run afterward and blast their favorite music, get those endorphins up. It just kind of depends on the person and what's worked for them in the past. So.
I can say from the men's community that's introduced me to therapy, the thing that they encourage and that we all encourage is whatever your initial coping mechanism is for that vulnerability hangover, do that, you know, as long as it's healthy. Do that.
Like running.
Yes, like running or something like that.
For exercise.
But after that, make sure that you're integrated into a community of like-minded people.
Sure.
And thankfully, there's a lot of men around this area in particular that are pursuing therapy and pursuing sexual healing from sexual trauma. So those conversations can happen, you know, and you can, because isolation for men, and I don't know for women, but isolation for men is a very dangerous thing.
Oh, yeah.
And so to be able to, I'm in the therapist's office once a week, and this is how conversations go. We run into each other at the gym or at church or something like, well, I had my session with so-and-so today. And the other person will stop. That's like the signal. How did it go? You know, like be curious about that. That's the language that we use to signal to someone, hey, I'm kind of struggling after this appointment today. You know, help me out, you know. So, yeah, I think you're right. Like those personal responses are important. But sometimes for men especially, that can take you to a very dangerous place of isolation. You know, the woods is great, okay, or a run is great. But you're going to have to stop the run or come out of the woods eventually.
Yeah.
And you need to have a circle of people around you that can help you with that. I would assume it would be the same for females.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So we have a kind of a third, maybe final phase once we get through the, what do you call it? The yuck, like, the yuck of the process.
You've waded through it, and now you're gradually coming out on the other side. And that is, it's what I call the integration aspect of it. So now that you've learned all this and you've made a little more meaning out of it, where do you go from here? What do you want your life to look like now that this is an aspect? Because something that this researcher named Bessel van der Kolk, who has a really great book on trauma.
Also a great name.
Bessel van der Kolk.
Whatever that person says has to be intelligent.
Yeah, so he really says that trauma and abuse is not something that you can treat, but you can treat the effects of it on your life. So it is a part of you, but it does not define you. It is not the end all be all of your life. So how do you want to go about that? How can we restore your power, the influence that you have on your community, your voice, your expression of who you are, and just your relationships? So
That's the hopeful part.
yeah.
Yeah. I love to meet people who are in that phase. You're like, man, it is possible, you know, and they're able to tell their story in an integrated way, to be open with it, and then to say, and this is what's happening as a result of those things.
Yeah.
God, that's just a beautiful part of therapy. But it does take quite a while to get there.
It does. And like I said, you can have small victories throughout the journey too. You don't have to come to the end and say like, I know what happened and I'm good now. Like,
Right.
That's very rarely.
I'm so sad that our listeners couldn't see that the little hip thing you did there. And I'm a little teapot.
Yes. Power stance.
Yes.
Yeah, so you can have these small victories throughout the journey too. I mean, in a session, you may, remember this one thing that occurred and sit there and talk about it for a while. And once you kind of come out of the valley within the session, you can think about, like, what does this mean for how I go about my day now? What does this mean for how I interact with this one particular person? What does this mean for how I interact with my spouse and my kids? So it's a very ongoing process.
Yeah, information is power, and that
Yeah.
happens throughout the whole process, right? So, I think that's a very great job with that. Thank you. I think that's a very clear descriptor, but it leaves us with the question, we're not therapists,
Right.
right? And so we're not running a practice. We are a church. So what is the church's role? Maybe where's the church misstepped in this? Let's try to get honest about that.
Yeah, we're almost always, if it's someone in our community, we're kind of that first place that they go. Someone within it, whether it's a group leader, if you're an adult, or if it's a student, it's a small group leader, or it's the parent of the student coming to a small group leader, or someone just that shows up here on a Sunday and they're distraught.
That happens here. Yeah.
And we're kind of that first place. And I think in the past, the church has done that a disservice, not knowing how to handle it maybe, or having a plan, but it wasn't really the right way to handle it, and giving poor guidance because someone couldn't afford to go see a therapist. And so they've decided to become the therapist. What have you seen, Shelby?
I've seen a lot of that. I have really appreciated about Vertical that there is a push towards professional therapy and not just pastoral therapy, which has its place. I mean, I think people in ministry have seen a lot and lived a lot, and there is a place for that. But I think it's to come alongside the people that have studied and practiced and have evidence-based information behind them. And so, yeah, I mean, like, there's those sweatshirts that circulate that say it's okay to have Jesus and a therapist too.
Yes.
Need that, man.
I love that. Yeah, that's
New
good.
Sunday uniform.
I think the way that JC was describing it, though, like the role of the church, I haven't thought about it this way until you went through those steps or phases, but our role is to provide a safe place, first and foremost, And if you look at Jesus, that's exactly what he did. He provided a safe place first and foremost, either through physical touch or through listening or through acknowledgement. He was doing that first. He wasn't giving them a big speech first, or I know so many books, Christian books that have come out and like, get out of the pit and, bootstrap your way into the whatever, We don't do those kinds of things as a church. We're like, hey, welcome to our number.
Yeah.
This is a safe place. You've been through some very difficult things. If I haven't been through those particular difficult things, I have been through my own. But there are people in this building right now that have been through those things.
Yep.
So you're safe here, and to be able to communicate, and this is important to say as well, what's said here stays here.
Right.
The level of stories that we know about people who are in church with us now at Vertical and are no longer with us at Vertical, those things that are shared with us stay with us. So that safety piece, I think, from my point of view, part of what the church is doing is hearing those stories and not falling out of our chair.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or leaving the room, being able to sit with those things. And then the second part of it is to upset expectations, because the expectation is sometimes this is what people want. Hey, tell me what to do.
Yeah.
That's not how this works. There's a process, right? So I can't tell you what to do. And I respect the process too much to do that. But then being willing to share our own experience, as I was processing through things in my life that were like this is what it took, and then being willing to disclose what those things are to a certain degree. I mean, there are things that I've shared with people in my office that I haven't shared with, people from stage.
Right.
Yeah.
But we want to, wouldn't you say we want to create that safe place?
I think so. And I think continuing to be that safe place. We're not the professional therapist. We're going to refer someone who needs that out and help them get there. But they need the person to call after therapy, or when the memories come flooding back. They need that friend to lean on. And that's where the community of the church comes in.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big piece. Like you can sit with this group of people, and there's even this other group of people that meets that we're not even in charge of,
Right.
Yeah.
but they're safe. Go sit with them. In
Yes.
fact, I'll be there.
Yeah.
And I'm not the pastor there. I'm just a dude there, but there's a chair next to me. And we can discover a lot of this together. Man, it's so messy and dangerous.
It is.
Because really we're putting ourselves at risk by disclosing those sorts of things. But we believe in this journey enough to be able to do that. So how has the church misstepped? That'd be an interesting part of this conversation.
I think for a long time, the church was like, pray it away. If you mentioned just pray enough and seek God enough and he'll heal you. And there is an aspect of that, like you said. I think God can heal anything, but I also think there's wisdom in seeking out people that can help you. And if somebody lost a leg in a car accident, we would take them to a doctor, and that's trauma. Your brain can
Yes.
experience trauma as well. And so I think that's something that is getting better across American Christianity, but that has kind of failed for a while.
Yeah.
Well, and it's still happening, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we hear stories of people that come to church here and they've experienced other local churches, and the big story there was, I had this problem until I'd learned how to trust God. Which let's just talk about how crazy that is. Like, well, you wouldn't have. I mean, the trauma is one thing, right? But if you just trust God more, then that's like a trauma eraser. Like,
Glad that worked for you.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. Like, no, that's not really how it works. And that we didn't see Jesus like wave the hand over things or
Yeah.
just like pass by. In fact, when the glory of God passes by someone, it's very troubling. It's
Yeah.
not settling, it's troubling.
I can't look at it.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that's right. So of course we believe in the supernatural power of God to heal all things. But my question is with the church, if the plan of God was to expand the kingdom or knowledge of the kingdom of God through other people, why would trauma and healing of trauma exist outside of that model? Like, no, don't use people with that. I'm going to handle that, just you and me. It just doesn't feel like it follows kind of the pattern of God. But I feel like also the church has failed with pastors who selectively disclose safe things that tie a bow around themselves within a 30-minute sermon.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, this is kind of all worked out.
Yes.
Look, there's my wife on the front row. Isn't this
My
amazing?
smoking hot wife.
Smoking hot wife.
Smoking
Yeah, boy,
hot.
that's like, I don't know where that
It's all
moved
over
in.
TikTok making fun of all the pastors that
Yeah.
say
They all
all
have smoking hot wives.
Yes.
smoking
all of
hot
them.
wife. Yeah.
Because they waited to have sex. That's their
It
reward.
made them
And
even
so
more
did their
smoking
smoking hot wives.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So how did they? Anyway, we can't chase that rabbit.
I think the stigma that was placed, the church placed this stigma on talking about sex, first of all, unless you had a smoking hot wife.
Yes.
And mental health. And that's, all of this that we're talking about, that's what it results in. And so if you can just pray away the desire to have sex and pray away your mental health issues, then you'll be okay. And we're not going to talk about it. We'll just sweep it under the rug and only talk about the pretty things.
Yeah. Yeah. Because like it or not, people have to sit in a room, either group or an individual, and decide what's going to be discussed at church. And if a person who's deciding those things is uncomfortable talking about sex or uncomfortable saying that the church has failed or made some mistakes, then how's it ever going to correct?
Yep.
Unless the community revolts and stands up and says, somebody needs to be talking about this, which never happens. I think being selective about what we talk about, being very vanilla, or kind of grazing up against it, and we should probably go here because I can't remember the name of the book. The Great Sex Rescue, is that it? It's a new book. It's pretty awesome.
I don't know.
So I've heard. I haven't read it yet,
Curious.
but it's commentary on the purity culture. Or you get someone, predominantly a male, delivering a sermon that brings a male point of view and teaches incorrect things. Like, well, your husband had an affair because you don't put out enough. These are things that pastors are saying, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
Or your wife had an affair because you didn't go through her closet and see what she was wearing, and you don't have a joint checking account to know what she's buying, and all this stuff comes out that really is just their personal trauma
Yes.
leaking out because they have a position of authority and it's backed by the Bible. So I think the church has done a poor job holding other pastors accountable for the things that they're saying. Thankfully, thanks to YouTube, And thanks to the pandemic, a lot of that stuff's breaking down.
It is.
Because it's like, did you see what this guy said?
Yes.
And then suddenly he doesn't have a job anymore. So, but I think would you say our place as a church is to provide that safe place? And after that, which sometimes that's one meeting, sometimes it's 3 meetings, but we provide that safe place and then we push to people who actually know something about how the brain works and are not primarily concerned with over spiritualizing trauma.
Yes.
I think it's after, and I think it's during, you need people to encourage you while you're going through therapy to keep going and to do the hard work that it's going to take to heal.
Yep.
So let's say that someone's listening now, and do we have listeners, Chase? A few. Yeah. Let's say someone's listening now and they're like, I got to do something like as soon as possible. What's a good next step?
So we actually have a system set up for that. And you can, if you are wanting to seek help, you can email us. It's help@livevertical.tv. And those emails will go directly to Ben or myself. And you can make up a fake email address and never tell us your actual name. We do not need to know information that you don't want us to know. The primary goal of that is for us to be able to get in touch with you and help you get in touch with a therapist that can help. And we have a wide variety of therapists, men, women, young, older. We can be able to get you with someone that can specifically help you. And the other side of that is a lot of times I think people don't seek that help because they think they can't afford it. And Vertical helps with that. We believe in therapy so much that we will help with that. So you can do that, and we will connect with you in that way.
Yeah, especially in that first phase, we very much believe in helping people find that help. So I think it would be good, Megan, if you could wrap this part of this episode by, giving us some encouragement. We've talked so much about the difficulty and sexual trauma and all that, but a healthy sex life that is fulfilling and is by God's design, it's out there, right? It's obtainable.
I think so. No. I think on a previous episode, I talked about being in a very unhealthy marriage and moving now into a very healthy marriage. And I believe that looks very differently for anyone. I don't think you ever arrive at this perfect marriage, whether it's the conversations that you can have, the way you manage your household, the way you raise your children, or your sex life. I don't think there's ever just this goal that you meet. It's going to look different for everyone, but it is out there. Would you agree with that, JC?
Yeah, there's no prescription for what the ideal sex life, the ideal marriage looks like. I think it just involves a lot of open and honest communication, actually having conversations, sitting down with your spouse, saying, here's my expectations, what I would like, and comparing those. And then also just figuring out what works for you. Because what works for one couple could be drastically different for what works for the next couple. And that even changes throughout life too. So just kind of rolling with the punches, going with the flow of it, and doing what works for you and what keeps you both happy in the meantime. So.
Thank y'all so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
To talk about this. And we're going to take a break and come back for another fun segment, not talking about trauma.
Hey, I'm back on a microphone.
And
although,
also me.
Well,
Avery's also back. Let's address that.
although, I didn't break my streak of being on episodes because, I walked over to Megan's
made a
mic.
way.
Yeah.
Yes, he
To be
borrowed
on.
the
I was
microphone.
I was not going to do it, but I was invited.
Well,
So
it made
I'm
more
not gonna-
sense if you were going to yell across the room.
Yeah.
Just
I don't know.
I was
seemed
there for
premeditated.
ambient noise
say
most
it.
of the night. I
Yeah.
just wanted JC and Shelby to feel hyped. So
Were you like an
wanted-
applause, clapping
He
in the
was.
background?
Like the
Solo
live studio
applause.
audience.
You had like
Yeah.
the cue cards that say like applause.
Hey, fun fact: most like audience applause that's injected into sitcoms now are all dead people.
Really?
Yeah, I read that somewhere.
Pre-recorded.
Yeah.
Still applauding.
Applause.
It's like what's the name of the scream? Do you know what
Oh
I'm talking about?
yeah.
What is it called?
What is it? I don't know. Here, I'll Google. You talk, Avery. I'll figure it out.
What do you
Pretty
mean the
much,
scream?
it's a special scream that's in like tons and tons and tons of movies. Like I know it's in all the Star Wars movies, and if you heard the the
Wilhelm scream.
yes, if you heard it, you would know exactly what I'm talking about. Are you about to play it?
Ah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, yeah.
I'll play it for our audience.
That's in the Star Wars video game, I think.
It's in lots of
Yeah.
the Wilhelm scream.
Wow.
Anyways, so
Fun
if you ever hear
fact.
that, it's kind of a fun fact. Anyways,
Wow, you two are really smart.
We're just very cultured. That's why I hired her.
Okay. Okay.
All right, so we're finally done with all these heavy things that we've been talking about, and we're to the fun parts of the episode. Finally,
Here we
is
go.
that the attitude we want?
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Very
Yes.
good. All right. Oh,
I love how you sometimes you, do
kinda
that.
sounded
You're in a
frustrated.
rush. You sound like you're in a rush.
yeah. It's like I accidentally.
Or
Gotta
like
go.
you're in puberty and your voice is kind of changing. Like, eh.
You know, I didn't have much voice cracking going on during
Really?
my
Oh
puberty
man,
days.
did I? Did
I
I?
was
So
really
bad.
fortunate.
Yeah, it was, and I just didn't know when to say when. You know, like I just thought, well, maybe I'll pretend like this doesn't happen, and it happened over and over and over again.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Ignore.
Yeah, that's
Don't.
usually my process on everything, really.
Mm.
Ignore. All right,
Speaking
questions.
of
Ask us
puberty,
anything. Yeah.
Avery.
Speaking of puberty, let's talk about the 90s.
Great.
but before that,
Oh,
what weird food combinations do you really enjoy?
Avery, do you enjoy any weird food combinations?
Probably not.
Yeah, I think you're exempt from this question.
Like the pickiest
Yeah.
eater?
Yeah.
It's okay.
you go first. That way we can see your attempt at trying to be weird food combinations, girl,
I don't think this is weird,
woman.
but
If you say peanut butter and jelly,
I kind of have this thing where it's definitely a salty and sweet combo, but I only do this when I go to the movie theater. And it specifically has to be Cinemark too, because their popcorn is elite. But Raisinets and popcorn is like
Mixed together?
maybe. I've done it before.
mean, if
I've
I'm
done it
just
before.
getting
I wouldn't
crazy.
put it behind me.
Okay.
But I don't know. But when I go to the movie theater, I have to have popcorn and Raisinets, and it's how I grew up.
okay.
And
It doesn't feel
It's
quite
not a
as
weird
strange as you
combination?
describe it. People do M&Ms and popcorn a lot. What makes it
Yeah.
weird to me is that the raisin is going to hang around a while.
Yeah.
Like an M&M, you can kind of crunch up with your popcorn simultaneously.
yeah, and I hate raisins, but for some reason I like Raisinets. It's so
She's
weird.
an enigma.
I know it's
I know.
it's a weird.
So someone introduced you to this, apparently.
Yes, my mom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a
a-
nostalgic snack.
For sure. Well, and my whole family does it too. We all eat Raisinets and popcorn when we go to the movies.
I just think that I
It's kinda
couldn't join
weird.
in on that. I don't know.
I've actually gotten Dalton into it too.
Really?
He has to have Raisinets with popcorn too.
Yeah, I don't think
It's
I
a
could
good
do it.
combo.
Could you guys do it? Raisinets and popcorn?
I like both of those.
Yeah,
I
I
just
mean,
don't
sure.
know. And I've had them at the movies, but not together. I kind of eat one thing at a time. So
See, I feel like my take is even hotter in that popcorn's just a waste of time.
I know you don't like
What?
popcorn. I can't believe it. As much as you like movies, you don't like popcorn.
I'm kind
I
of
love the movie so
obsessed with
much.
popcorn.
Well, so the popcorn just gets stuck in my teeth, and you have to have popcorn with a drink, right?
Yeah.
If I drink something at the movies, I will have to pee halfway through, and
So
I
part of
refuse.
that's practical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I refuse to get up during a movie.
yeah.
I'm racking my brain on weird food combinations. I don't.
I have one that's marginal. If you need more time to think.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so Rachel, my wife, whom I love, got me into this. I still find it weird. It is weird, but I enjoy it. It's a grilled cheese dipped in ketchup.
That's kind of like dipping it into
Tomato
tomato.
That sounds gross too.
No, that's
No,
a
it's
great
delicious with
combo.
tomato
But do y'all
Tomato
do this?
soup is
Yes,
not nearly
yeah.
as
With
sweet
tomato
as
soup?
Yeah, ketchup has a very
is very
different-
sweet, and
But
the
I
texture's weird.
almost can't eat a grilled cheese without it now.
It's interesting that we think that that's strange though, because you will put ketchup on a cheeseburger.
Yeah.
So
It's just all the
True,
same thing
yes.
except meat.
yeah,
It's like a patty melt.
yeah.
Yeah, like minus the meat. So why is the cheese?
Are we not as weird as we once thought we were?
No, I mean, I think if I saw someone doing that, I would observe like, how is this going to go?
It's unusual. I'm just curious how she came about that for the first time.
I think her mom put her onto it.
the moms.
We put a
You
lot of ketchup
influence
on things,
your kids.
on like cafeteria food
Yeah.
when I was growing up. I
It
do
does
remember
sound
that.
kind of like something that a mom, like something special a mom would do for their kid. Like,
Well,
Here's your ketchup.
her mom had this freaking pro tip. Her kids were not eating vegetables at all. And so she would food process green beans and put it into their ketchup
there you go.
and everything.
There's a whole cookbook
Little known
full
fact
of those
by
kinds of
Seinfeld's wife.
recipes.
Yes. Seinfeld's
Yes,
wife.
it is.
Okay, I think mine falls into maybe not really that strange, but extremely redneck. That's all right?
Yep.
We are in Mississippi, right? I mean,
Yeehaw.
Yeah.
it's going to affect us whether we want it or not. This is something my dad taught me that when I do this in front of people causes a lot of conversation. But he taught me to mix Coke and gas station peanuts in the bottle.
I've heard of that.
So
What?
yeah, you drink a Coke, like you drink a fourth of the Coke, and then you take the gas station peanuts that are usually pretty oily and the the little
Very
sleeve.
salty.
Yeah, very salty. And you pour the peanuts down into the Coke, which dramatically affects the taste of the Coke.
Right?
So do you just drink the Coke or do you eat the peanuts?
You drink the Coke, like you tip the bottle and drink the Coke. You let the Coke and the peanuts into your mouth at the same time, and you
You like swallow it like a pill?
no, you chew up the peanuts. That's why it's critical to point out that it does change the flavor of the Coke. It also really reduces the carbonation to make this possible. So
I don't think
I
that would be
I
good
feel like
anymore, though.
I just have to try it.
you have to. It's
Like,
kind of
I-
like when
yeah.
you pour a bowl of cereal that gets soggy quickly.
Yeah.
Like you don't pour that bowl and then go fold laundry. You're like, I need to eat this right now. When you do that with the Coke and peanuts, like you better be in the truck
There's a
headed
window
somewhere,
of
and you need
time.
to just
Yeah.
because after a few minutes, everything's spoiled.
Disgusting. Okay.
And it's not really fantastic. But it's nostalgic for me. Like I remember as a kid riding in the truck with my dad, and he would,
Peanut
we were
Coke.
the family that you just got gas at the gas station.
Yeah.
You did not go inside and get snacks. Like that's not what you do. But every once in a while, he would take me in there to get this particular snack for me. So
Interesting.
it's worth trying. I mean, you're going to ruin like 99-cent peanuts and a whatever Coke costs now $9 at a gas
17.
station. Yeah. So that's odd, I think, based on people's reaction.
yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't sound appetizing.
Megan?
Mine is also a Southern dish, not so much redneck,
Okay.
but Southern. So I've learned a lot. My grandfather, my dad's dad, my papa we were very close, and I've done a lot of research recently and learned even more about him thanks to Ancestry.com. But so
Did you spit in a
he
cup?
was I did the 23andMe and did that, yes. But I've been able to find like newspaper articles, so I knew some things. He was a minor league ball player.
Ooh, that's
Found
fun.
that out, and he managed the team also when they first started. So that's where I
Early
get
days.
Look at
the
that. And you
mindset
married a
of
ball
I've got to
player.
run it and do it because I can't. Yes, and then I married a
You
baseball
married
player.
a baseball player.
And then his parents died at a really young age. So he worked at, they were called CC camps, and they were put in place right after the Great Depression to build the economy back up. So he worked for one of those, and that's where he learned to cook. So he always cooked our big family meals. And he would make us this dessert, I guess, and it was called Pear Salad. But it was a
Questionable dessert,
piece
is
of
it?
lettuce
Yeah. On the bottom.
with a slice of like
Lettuce is only
canned
garnish.
pear, and then a scoop of mayonnaise,
Oh, I have a substitute for that.
like a dab of it, and then shredded cheese and a cherry on top. It was delicious.
Have you ever, instead of mayonnaise, done cream cheese?
Ooh, no.
It is
that
the
sounds actually
cat's
like it's supposed
That
Knees.
does, yes.
delicious.
to. Yeah.
Need to
That doesn't
check
sound
that
like
out.
a dessert from the 50s.
It's got to be
Yeah,
canned though.
it sounds.
Yeah, everything is incredibly artificial.
Would hot dogs and ramen be weirder than what I was saying earlier?
No, my kids destroy that.
Okay. Then thus it can't be weird.
That's just
Yeah.
like a kid thing.
That's
yeah.
right. Yeah, I think
It's like hot dogs and mac and cheese.
Yeah.
I think if we were to venture anywhere outside of the deep south and eat what you were just describing with the pear, people would be like,
what
"That
the heck are you
What
there's
is
no
this?
way.
Sin.
There's no way that's real food." Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's more like, what did you call it? It's more like a glob of mayonnaise.
Yes.
It
just
is
like
like
a dollop.
significant amounts of mayonnaise with cheese and a cherry on top. All right, great question.
I think Megan
Yeah.
wins.
yeah.
For weird,
I don't know.
Megan's feels grosser. Yours is just weird.
I would
But
have
at
never
least
thought
like
of
mine,
that.
the presentation is nice.
yeah,
Of the
I
pear
mean,
salad.
enough people do it.
You wouldn't
that
serve Coke and peanuts at a family gathering.
No,
you guys aren't gonna
but
believe.
I've heard of it.
Cocaine. Yeah. Anyways, speaking of
Yeah,
cocaine,
great.
the 90s.
The 90s.
What is your favorite 90s sitcom and crush?
Does the crush
The crush
have to be
doesn't
on
have
the-
to be in the
Okay.
sitcom.
Oh, but mine do.
No. All right, Chase.
Oh,
So the greatest 90s sitcom of all time, and I will not entertain argument or debate, is The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. It is just great. Every episode, just, it's good enough. There's some great episodes out there, where like Will's dad comes back and he talks to Uncle Phil about, like, why doesn't he want me, man?
Yes.
It's the greatest scene in television history.
Yeah, that is it.
Has all the range, sadness, comedy,
Carlton.
happiness, Carlton,
adventure.
wherever that fits in the spectrum. All great. Am I answering my crush at the same time?
Sure, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thankfully, also
Is it Will?
included probably the most beautiful woman on TV
Oh.
in the 90s. Probably not actually true because there's a lot of pretty actresses. But Ashley, Will's youngest, I guess, sister, quote unquote. Gosh, she was just beautiful. 12 to 13-year-old Chase would have happily dated her,
Where
taken
is
her
she
to the
now?
movies.
Do you know? Have you followed her?
I think she's I know she was a model after
well,
the
of course.
of course
Yeah.
after the show. I don't know if she's done much acting though.
So
It's
your
always
crush
like
and your
one or
favorite
two
show.
people make it out of the sitcom and start doing things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like you're a little biased. Like you probably are overrating the show based on your crush.
Did you watch Fresh Prince of Bel-Air?
Yeah, of course I did. Yeah.
What?
I mean, it's a good show. I'm confused about sitcom. Does sitcom have to be comedy or?
I think that's in the title.
Yeah. So I don't
is
know.
Situational comedy.
Yeah, I mean, I know that people use that is, but people use it for any 30-minute show, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that was kind of the
Yeah.
So they shouldn't, but they do.
Yeah. I'm curious what your answer is then.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Not much good TV on in the 90s. Little weird era.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we faithfully in the 90s watched Friends for sure. I know Friends gets a terrible rap these days.
No, I
and
love Friends.
A lot of it's deserved, I guess, but I dodged Seinfeld. I was just a little bit too young for that. And Friends was just something that everybody was watching. So, but as far as like favorite, I don't know that I was super attached to shows back then. Yeah.
Is there anything you've gone back to recently?
No. Nope, I really haven't.
Noted. Great.
I really haven't. I think if you had to like based on volume of watching, I would have to say Friends because I do know almost every episode and if you start quoting Friends, I know immediately.
Pivot.
Yeah. Somebody said that to Jim the other day. Yeah. Even people who don't like Friends still use the
You
comedy.
know
Yeah.
what it means.
No,
Yeah.
Friends is hilarious
Yeah.
to me. I love
So Chandler Bing's kind of a hero of mine.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. This was sarcasm.
And Janice.
Yes.
Is
yeah.
it cliche to just love Joey?
No, I think Joey is the most lovable character
For
long term, even in real life. You know?
I also like Ross.
Really?
I'm one of few.
Yeah.
I think
No,
Ross is hilarious.
annoying.
Yeah. Have
But-
you read those articles like Ross is the reason for the downfall of society? Like,
Really? I
they're
haven't read
pretty
that.
funny. Yeah, they're pretty funny. So what's the second part of it? The crush?
Yeah, crush.
I'm
90s.
curious your answer.
90s celebrity crush.
90s celebrity crush. All right, man. I don't know why I feel the need to admit these things so publicly, but we're gonna bypass Jennifer Aniston because who didn't, right?
Yeah, right.
Who didn't have that crush? So there was this really dark artist that came out in the 90s, Fiona Apple.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
She was all kinds of dark and twisted. And
Dark and twisty.
twisty, yeah.
Yeah.
She released an album. I don't even remember the name of the
Criminal?
album.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. But her bright blue eyes were on the cover, and she was super young when she recorded this album too. Which, like looking back, this is really twisted.
Wow.
It says a lot about what the
Yeah,
90s
it says a lot
were
about
like.
the 90s.
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah. I mean, I could get along with this girl. She
Yeah.
seems nice.
Yeah.
You know, I would introduce her to my mother. Not really. But yeah, decent music, like pretty creative music, especially for the 90s, and very poetic stuff.
She's kind of scary.
Yeah.
yeah.
She's like way kind of tamed down Billie Eilish vibes. I said tame.
Tamed, yeah. I think the key is you'd have to be in like that really weird, confusing at the end of middle school, right at the start of high school period of your life to think this would be a cool person to hang out with.
I feel like she could challenge me.
She's different
I
from
feel like she could
the others.
challenge. Yeah, so that was probably one. People made fun of me for that even back then. I was like, man,
She's pretty.
This girl's beautiful.
I'd never heard of her. She's
Yeah,
pretty.
But then you watch the video and you're like, to one of her songs, you're like, whoa, she would probably kill me in my sleep.
All right.
Megan.
So, my 90s sitcom that I have seen every episode of and also recorded the wedding episode on my VCR
Whoa.
was Saved by the Bell.
Oh, well played.
That was my favorite. It came on at just the right time after school. And I remember crying tears of happiness when Zach and Kelly finally got married after all of the breakups.
Were they at the beach? Didn't they work at a beach?
No, they did work at a beach.
Okay.
That was Baywatch.
But they went to Las Vegas to get married.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So that was my favorite. And I did have a crush on Zach Morris,
Who didn't?
as every girl did. But there was a boy band that came out in the later 90s.
NSYNC.
No, before them. 7th grade. And it was the Hanson brothers.
All of them?
And no.
Drummer's pretty
Taylor.
young.
Taylor.
Okay.
Actually, the drummer is my age.
Hey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So you're pretty,
Which I didn't realize until recently, like something came out about them and I was reading the article. But Taylor Hanson, the middle brother, he was my crush. So
yeah. Well,
I'm doing all this research.
Yeah, you're like clicking away over there.
are you looking him up?
Yeah.
his name's Zach.
They've
Whoa,
kept
he's got really
Oh, yeah.
strong Billy
got-
Ray Cyrus vibes in that picture.
Yeah, I think his
In
hair
that
is still
particular
long.
picture.
Yeah.
When his hair's long with the long beard.
They're
It
still
does
making
have
music
really
together, by the way.
But
yeah.
wow, that's some hair.
Yep.
It
I would
is.
be so excited when that video would come on MTV because it didn't come often, but when it
I'm
did.
sure it didn't. All right, so,
So
we have
excited.
Fresh Prince, we have
Yeah.
Friends, we have Saved by the Bell.
Yeah. Well, so y'all have to bear with me here.
What year were you born?
Yeah, because I was born in 97. So
Care Bears.
I didn't actually
Backyardigans.
watch 90 sitcoms in the 90s.
In real time?
But I have watched 90 sitcoms. And I really hope that this is a 90 sitcom. I probably should have like fact checked myself, but that 70s show. Is that
No.
90s?
I think it's
No,
No,
2000s.
I think it was early 2000s, though. Close, but no
I
cigar.
think it came out in 99.
I'm about to tell you.
Man, you will be so lucky if it aired in
98.
99.
I'm pretty sure.
98.
Yeah.
See?
My birthday, August 23rd, 98.
Come on, you made it.
No, but I love that 70s show. It's great. And
I'll give that to you because
whole,
the
like,
first two
Ashton and
seasons,
Mila-
still pretty good
Yeah,
seasons.
for
Yeah.
sure, for sure.
Who do you like most? The character you like most? Because everybody remembers Ashton, right? He's the crazy one. Mm-hmm. But who was the angry friend? I really liked him.
Hyde.
Yeah, he's gotten in a lot of trouble.
I don't
think,
know. I
as
always
a-
like.
I think he's
Fez always
what
made
we
me
like to call
laugh.
canceled
was
at this
funny.
point.
Yeah.
He's done some.
as a human being, he's done horrific
He
things.
pretty much, yeah.
He was the funny angry friend, though.
It was a good show.
Yeah. So definitely love that show, and then of course loved like Friends, and I've watched some Seinfeld and other 90s sitcoms. Obviously not in the 90s, but and then 90s crush would probably have to be a young Leo DiCaprio. You know,
like Romeo
watching
and
Titanic.
Juliet,
Yeah,
Titanic,
sure.
yeah.
That's a very underappreciated movie, by the way.
is.
Titanic.
No,
Romeo and Juliet.
Romeo and
Juliet.
Juliet.
DiCaprio's Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
Great
Have you
soundtrack.
seen that?
I don't believe I have.
Yeah,
You
should
should.
definitely
I've
watch that.
seen. I watched actually the other day, but I had seen it before. What's Eating Gilbert Grape, and I think that was that his first
One of his
much, yeah.
first
film?
movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and incredible performance in there. Very sad movie, but yeah.
Someone who should receive honorable mention for crushes is Claire Danes, because a lot lot of guys in the 90s
Yes.
had a crush.
Gotta
Speaking
keep
of
That
searching
so-called
here.
life.
yeah, that's
Claire
mostly why people were watching
Danes.
Romeo and Juliet.
Uh-huh.
Was for Claire Danes.
Yep.
What year? 19.
I love how the people I'm at the
97.
table with
I
have to
know.
research who Claire Danes
Like,
is.
oh yeah, I watched that in the movies when it came out. And I'm like, I watched it when I was born, years later.
Okay, awesome. Let's move on. If someone narrated the story of your life, who would it be?
Ooh.
Or who would
Claire
you want
Danes.
it to be? Yeah, go ahead.
Leonardo
DiCaprio.
DiCaprio.
So does it have to be like, are we talking someone that's famous or someone we know?
I think it could be someone we know. Yeah, there's no specifics on this question.
Okay, hold on. Clarification.
I feel like
If someone narrated the story of your life, is this a movie or I'm hearing my inner monologue becomes this person?
I pictured movie.
I was
I did
picturing
too.
movie
Yeah.
too.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, it changes the answer.
Does it?
Yeah.
Who would your
Who's your
internal
inner monologue?
voice be?
Well, I mean, if it's
You
inner
know,
monologue, I'm going to
some
hear them the
people-
rest of my life.
Yeah.
You know,
right.
some
voice.
people don't have like internal monologues.
I think they're lying.
I think they are too.
What does that mean? You don't.
That means like
you don't speak to yourself.
yes, which
That's
I
not
cannot.
possible.
I don't know.
myself
There
all the
are
time.
Yeah,
there
no,
are
no.
interviews with people like this, and they're like, "How do you read? Like when you read, what do you like? How does that work?" And they're like, "I just recognize like the words."
Oh, I have had this
And
conversation.
it-
Yeah.
it's so bizarre to me. But you should look up a interview with someone who doesn't have an
I wonder
internal
what babies'
monologue.
inner monologues
that is gonna.
are
That
like.
is question is going on all of our interviews henceforth.
Do you have?
Do
What
you
does your
have
inner
an
voice
internal
sound like? Mine's New Zealander.
I don't have one.
Mine's not
Okay,
very
this is
nice.
gonna work out. All right,
Don't
who's,
have
So we
it.
have to actually pick somebody.
is everyone going to choose Morgan Freeman?
No,
It's an easy choice.
I mean, yeah. I mean, that's
Ben
like,
Derek.
No, I'm not. I'm gonna choose Morgan Freeman. I'm not going to, but most people would because he is the, you know. And then you have.
Quintessential.
I'm just trying to ping off the guys that are on the top, like Mike Rowe. A lot of people would pick Mike Rowe.
Mike Rowe would be really good. I didn't think about him.
Yeah, because he's. I mean, he's got the voice and he does Deadliest Catch, all kinds
He's
of stuff.
sassy.
Yeah, yeah. He just great inflection. Malcolm Gladwell. A lot of people probably choose him.
Man,
Yeah.
you're getting rid of all these really good options.
Well, I'm throwing them out there because I feel like we're a little more creative than that. But they are good options. But I want an opportunity to say I would turn these guys down. Sorry, you're not good enough to narrate my life. So
Okay, noted.
all right, who do you guys pick?
I can go.
Reba McEntire.
I have two, male or female. Reba.
How about Barbara Jean?
Reba.
I would.
Meredith Grey. No, I'm kidding.
No. I would pick George if anybody from that show.
Yeah,
I
you're
love that
good
show.
voice.
Okay.
Probably Kate Blanchett. She's Australian, so I feel like she's got a cool. I don't know. I like her voice.
Avery.
Avery. There it is. Yeah.
Love that answer.
Like a glove.
Either her or if I was picking a dude, probably Matt Damon. Mostly because
Yeah.
I'll give you the reason why. One of my favorite childhood.
You get to meet him.
No, well, sure, but one of my favorite childhood movies was Spirit, like the horse movie.
I forgot about
We
this.
played that movie.
And he-
We wore it out at our house.
yes.
Because I mean that movie came out in 2003, so I was like,
Stallion of the something.
yes,
unknown.
Cimarron.
Yes.
I was
Yes.
Cimarron.
I was 6 when that movie came out, and I loved it. But anyways, he narrates that movie, and great,
It's
so
a fine
good.
She was
job.
6
So good.
in 2003. What were you doing in 2003?
I'm literally thinking like I watched that
know.
movie with my son because he was also a child.
But you weren't. It wasn't in 2003. He wasn't born.
Yeah,
then.
that's true.
I was
That's
born in
true.
'97, so I was 6 in 2003.
Yeah.
Math.
Yeah.
You were in.
Quick
I
math.
was graduating high school, so you had to be in college.
In 2000 what?
3.
3.
You were at
Yes,
Baylor.
I was getting my master's degree at Baylor University. So there you go.
I
That's
listened
all
to
I
your
am.
story. Don't ever say I didn't.
I was in kindergarten, so
Aw.
Do we need a Ben story break here?
Favorite part.
the new segment.
All right,
Where we just
narrator.
let Ben
Who's gonna
ramble.
narrate?
There's
Yes.
so many options.
Yep.
Part of me Part of me wants to pick the narrator from Jane the Virgin
Yes.
because that would be hilarious. But I don't think
You don't want to have like a Gossip Girl thing going on.
I've never seen any of that show. But I don't.
XOXO.
I feel like you have to have a full on comedy level story to be like having him.
Yeah.
So I think probably to Ben's chagrin, just because you got to get him before he's gone. I think I'm gonna have to take Christopher Walken because he doesn't really do much narrating. He's always in the movie as a person, and then there's like narration over it or something like that. I would love to have a whole movie narrated by Christopher Walken. I think that would be freaking awesome.
Why do you say to my chagrin? I think that's
Well, because he feels kind of cliche, like a cliche voice.
maybe, but it ensures that everything that you do is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yes.
Even the grilled cheese with the ketchup.
Maybe we should have picked the answer for each person.
Yeah.
That'd been
I
interesting.
feel like Dave Grohl would narrate your story, Ben.
Amazing. Yeah. Feel like a man. Going to work.
I
feel
played
like-
for Nirvana.
Absolutely, Dave Grohl would have to take breaks to make fun of whoever he's narrating.
Exactly,
for.
which is why it would be so great. Dave
He'd be like,
Grohl,
"Okay,
if you're
pause your
listening,
All right, this is the stupid crap he's getting ready to do. Get ready.
Oh man.
wait till you hear what happens next. This idiot.
That's good. All right, Megan, who's gonna narrate?
Okay. Female, Reese Witherspoon. I love
Sassy.
her.
Good
She's
choice.
Southern, so everything would come out right. Sassy enough.
She's got to use her Sweet Home Alabama voice, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great
Just-
movie.
Just that good.
Yeah. My
It's
wife
that
tried
good
to quote
old
that movie a few
girl
days
thing.
ago.
I
Didn't
love
work.
that movie.
Didn't go well.
But if I had to pick a guy, honestly, Chase, you've narrated a
What?
few games of Mafia.
What? Me?
And I feel like I could trust you to like pause something and say, wait, you guys need to know the backstory here.
me-
I feel like Chase
fill
would
you
break
in
the
on
fourth
that.
wall
He would
in
do
a
the hand
movie.
thing. Let me explain.
Yeah. Wait, let me explain.
Yeah.
Here's what you need to know about Megan.
Here's what you need to know about this person that Megan's about to interact with and why she's going to handle it this
Boy,
way.
that's
You would
fantastic.
Okay,
like
if
I
I'm
could break the
narrating
fourth
it,
wall.
I think I want to direct it too.
Well,
Because I'm
okay.
thinking like so many
You gotta
thought
be in
bubble
charge of
things
everything.
happening.
Gosh.
Yeah,
You're
I like
now in
Plus
charge
coming
of
Good
my life.
answer.
Maybe we should
Good
rethink
answer.
this.
How's
They
nobody
have
pick
females.
Steve Harvey, by the way?
Nah.
Be a lot of comedy
Jack Black?
involved. Okay, third runner-up. Second runner-up, excuse me.
Oh, he's still going. You
Yeah.
still got people.
Yeah. No,
Ben's
I
got a
haven't
whole-
said
He hasn't
mine.
He's
even
not chosen
started.
anybody.
You
He
chose
has
for
not
me.
chosen anybody.
Oh,
Yeah, I haven't chosen anyone. Okay, so thought a long time while you guys were messing around.
Yeah.
Thought a long time
Child's
about Matthew McConaughey.
Oh,
yeah. Good
It's
answer.
a recent book, and man, he's just hitting his stride there. Next, I went to Daniel Stern. Had to make sure I got his name right. Was in Home Alone, also narrator of The Wonder Years.
Yes.
okay.
yeah.
So I'm going for what I'm trying to do is up the ante because my life's not that interesting.
Yeah,
so
that's kind of what I was feeling.
I want a really strong voice. Like you hear that.
Who
you're
was
like,
he at Home Alone?
He was one of the crooks,
Burglar.
one of the burglars. Not
Not
Pesci.
Pesci?
The other guy.
Oh, I never knew his name.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and his voice sounds a little different in the movies than when he's narrating. He
Yeah,
gets
he
like a narrator
brings
voice.
the
Yeah.
pitch up.
Yeah. So when you hear that voice, you're like, oh, I love the Wonder Years. This is probably going to be great. Okay. The one that I actually picked, though, I've got to roll over to his name because these are names that no one knows, but you know the voice. David Mickey Evans. Any guesses?
Is he like
He, renowned. Oh, Justice League.
No.
is he like the guy that does all like the movie like
No.
coming
David.
soon?
Wait, hold on.
I love how your assumptions about my
Is it
life's
Ben
motive.
specific?
Is it Ben specific?
Like this is like
No.
something.
Or
oh.
who's the guy that plays Simba in the Lion? No, Mufasa in the
No,
Lion King.
that's James
What's
Earl
his name?
Jones. James
Yes,
Earl
James
Jones.
Earl. Man,
Not the same one.
He falls in that Morgan Freeman category.
Yeah,
Yeah.
James Earl Jones, Morgan Freeman. Yeah, that'd be no good. Okay, David Mickey Evans, narrator of The Sandlot.
Oh, yeah.
Nailed
Good.
it.
Yes.
Great choice.
Yes.
Can you imagine having that voice over your life? I mean, all the feels, all the nostalgia, all the everything.
Yes.
Because that guy's voice is what you associate with that movie.
Let's play the game. Is he alive?
You know who else would be good for a female is Demi Moore. She narrated
Oh,
Now
yeah.
and Then.
Ah,
You remember
okay.
that movie?
Oh, he's only 58.
That
We're
would be a
good.
good one.
He's
I
only
also feel
58.
like Emma Stone.
Yes.
Oh, that is a good
she
pick.
would be
Yeah,
good.
trade your other one.
She-
for
It's
that
kind of
one.
like
And
ETA.
yeah,
She
she
kind
did
of
that.
narrated that a little bit. That's a good movie.
Maybe we should contact these people and see if they would just do like a day in the life for
I
Vertical
really
Plus.
just want Dave Grohl here.
Hey, that would be great.
Dave Grohl. He answers things on YouTube, challenges
heard
and
that,
things.
yeah.
So maybe
He's such a cool guy.
I would.
He
I would
really
think
is.
So. Yeah.
Well, Emma's been to Jackson before. She filmed The Help here, so maybe
Yeah.
she would come back and visit.
Come on, Kate Blanchett, I love you. If you're listening.
I don't
All
know
right,
that she's been
are
to
those
Jackson.
all our
but-
questions?
Yes, it is all of our questions.
Wow.
30 minutes later.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We take these questions very seriously.
really
Yeah,
do.
so
Yeah.
ask us something.
Yeah. So send me-
LiveVertical.tv, click the Hey Vertical button, follow us on Instagram, send us a DM.
Yeah.
Plus at LiveVertical.tv. So many options.
If
Text
you do
Avery.
it on the website, it's anonymous, so we won't
Yeah.
even know it was you that asked.
yeah.
I love how Megan said they stole my phrase and put it online.
They
I'm
did.
I basically have a copyright on Hey Vertical. So,
Hey, Vertical.
that was my idea.
all right, what do we get to recommends?
If you want to.
Recommends.
Yeah, why not? I think we're ready.
All right. Well, don't cut off the theme song this time. Avery, gosh, dog.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Recommends,
Thanks.
Yeah,
Wrote it
I
myself.
had to finish what I started.
Wrote it myself.
All right. Recommend.
Recommend.
Yeah. Hey, you know
We're
what?
excited.
You know what? Want, need, wear, read. Thank you, Janice. Let's get to the crap.
Let's go.
Go, Avery. Want.
Okay, I was trying to see if you would rap.
I can't.
What you want
What you're gonna
What you're
want.
gonna
want.
want
There you go.
is, I'm sure most people have heard of them. If you haven't, then
The Killers.
Backstreet Boys.
it is a particular YouTube channel. They've been around for a hot minute.
The Ireland Boys.
Oh, wait. Let me guess.
Let Avery speak.
Sorry.
Let me guess.
Okay.
Rhett and Link. Good Mythical
Nope.
Morning. Okay. Close.
Oh, is that your only guess?
Yeah. That's
Oh, okay. No,
That was so condescending. Well played.
no, none other than the slow mo guys.
Oh, he loves the slow-mo guys.
You don't even know. You don't even know. Gavin, Dan,
Yes,
Achievement Hunter,
I
Rooster
Weather
Teeth.
fan.
swear I have seen every single one from start to finish. Every single one.
Who
of their
owns the
videos.
slow mo guys?
Who owns them?
Yeah.
Slowmo.co.
I don't know.
All right. It's fine.
I'm not saying I'm a bigger fan than you. I'm just saying.
That's what you are saying. He's recommending
okay,
them.
guys.
Chase, will you
like
tell me
Chase
who
has been
owns
triggered.
them?
Yeah.
Who owns
Shoot.
them?
I feel like we need to have
That's a
a
great
talk after
recommend.
this.
Yep.
Hey, it was your idea for me to call it.
What's your favorite slow-mo?
I really liked the one of them spinning a record until it broke. That was kind of wacky.
What? I feel like you can't say wacky without being like, wacky.
Wacky.
Oh,
Wacky
We both
pack.
like. Did you notice when she said wacky? We both did this.
They're shaking their heads. That's gonna be my new word.
All right,
Wacky,
slow-mo. I'm gonna look that
wacky. I
up
don't
as soon as this is over.
You
The
never
slow-mo
watched the
guys.
slow mo guys?
Oh, I have, but not the
Wait,
record.
and
Oh,
there's
okay.
also one where they shot a gun underwater.
Yeah.
That
In a
one is
pool.
kind of cool. And they did like different guns, but yeah, it's pretty much just these two guys that have these super expensive cameras. What? You want to explain it?
No. Go ahead.
They have these super expensive.
Chase
She
is
didn't even
turning
say-
red.
She didn't even say frame rate.
Yeah. What are you doing?
What are you doing?
But
What's the name of the camera company?
gosh,
Nope,
I
not
should
it.
know this. You're gonna say it, and I'm gonna know.
Yeah.
All right,
I-
Chase, what do we need?
Chase,
What do we
your
need?
point is made.
We need
Your
to be.
point is made.
We need to be more kind to people making recommendations.
Yes.
That's a good point. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bully you. Hey, good recommendation. That was not loud at all. Yeah, nice. All right, what you're going to need is... Oh, shoot. What was I going to say? Oh, I remember. All right.
We just high five so you could end it there.
Yeah.
Wholesale. That's the name of the game in 2021. If we learned anything from 2020 is that you want to buy ahead of time because you never know what's going to happen.
You don't
all
need
right?
a little. You need a lot.
You need the most.
Yep.
All right. I'm not talking about toilet paper, although Walmart,
Why not?
great. Underrated toilet paper, Walmart. Should I talk more about that?
Nope.
No.
Okay.
Keep going.
Costco. Anybody know about the Costco game? I know Megan does.
Oh,
I've
yes.
never been. Actually,
Yes,
I
you
have
have.
been.
Yeah, Megan took you.
No.
Avery's
No,
never
she
been. They
didn't go
sell
with
No, I
us.
waffles.
haven't
Oh.
been to this one. I've been to Sam's recently.
Alas.
Anyways,
Pre-made meals from Costco. Sam's also has them, not as good. Costco has, man,
Street tacos.
they have so many things. But if I'm gonna give a singular recommendation, anybody here like meatloaf?
If it's done well, yes. Yeah.
You want done well? Well, how about some well done meatloaf from Costco? With have you ever had sweet tomato sauce on your?
I was about to ask, what's the sauce like and what's the
sweet,
ratio?
So very savory. Rachel corrected me. Savory does not mean salty. Salty, well salted meat
Okay, yes.
with a sweet tomato sauce on the top with a side of buttered mashed potatoes. Hot freaking dog. So good. Feed your whole family.
That was the most 90s commercial for meatloaf.
Even
Hot
if you have a
dog,
lot
so
of
good.
kids, will it
and
feed
it'll
them?
feed your whole family.
It really is so good. I had it. So we have some friends named the Shepherds that used to live here in Madison. Gray's been on the podcast.
where did
Yep.
they move to?
He bought a baseball team.
It's some nowhere place. I don't know. He bought a baseball team. He did.
My hometown of Monroe.
Meatloaf, that's interesting because if you think about something made in mass quantity, meatloaf would kind of gross you out.
Yeah.
Right.
But you're saying Costco does it well.
They nailed it, man. It's my favorite meatloaf. It's so good.
I may have to try that out.
Real good. Anyway, that's enough.
All right.
All right,
Where?
so where? So where to me now?
Right
All
here.
I am actually going to recommend something that I am wearing every day these days. We all know that the time of year is changing. Sun's out, guns out.
Sunscreen or your
No,
sun hat.
no. What does a bald man need sunscreen for?
Sunscreen on your head.
Yeah. So the sun is out, and as we all know, especially for balding men out there, one of the ways you can make a fashion statement is with your eyewear.
Yeah.
Okay, which applies to other people also, but it's very critical for bald men to have a great pair of sunglasses. I've been an aviator guy for a long time. Michael McQuillan's ruined that for me. So now I'm having to trade things out. And recently
So that
I
we know
purchased.
who's who when we're
yeah, it's
outside.
no, it's still not working.
You go on the
apparently.
Wayfair game?
Yeah. No, I have another friend that wears those. They look kind of bizarre on me, but I found something that is unlike me, and this product is very affordable.
Okay.
Okay. Just went out on a limb and went with a pair of Huckberry sunglasses.
I've never heard of that in my life.
Yes, they're an online retailer, Huckberry, and they're kind of like an outdoor company / maybe not really. So it's not like you're going to run into Patagonia, North Face, and all that stuff. But a pair of quality sunglasses from these guys, $45.
Oh, that's nice.
$45. Yeah, so it's a little above the
Polarized?
Yeah, it's a little above like I don't care if I leave them somewhere. You do care if you leave them, but you're not going to be destroyed if you get into your car and sit on them. You're like, well, they lasted 3 months, $45,
Right.
we're good, you know. Or if, as happens in my house a lot, your kids or spouse steal them because they're good sunglasses, right? So I have a couple different styles. There's a classic style. It'll be all over the website when you see it. They're a little bit Wayfair-like,
Yeah.
but enough to be different. $45. Summertime's rolling around, especially if you're bald. Don't you dare go to the gas station to get some of those neon side sunglasses.
Looking at you, big stuff.
Yeah, get a good
A
pair
good
of shades.
recommend.
Thank
That
you.
is a good recommend.
People deserve some mid-tier sunglasses.
Yeah. I have an expensive pair, but those are the ones I'm going to wear to the pool, the $45 pair. Yep.
That's good.
All right, read. Megan
All right,
accused me of
read.
never reading, so you got the read.
Yes. So I'm currently reading a few books, but this one was recommended by Jen Hatmaker, who is now being mentored by Brene Brown.
Stop
so
it.
I love
It is
that
like-
last name.
fantastic.
Wait, what was the last name?
Hat maker.
Hat maker. So what do you do for a living?
Well, I'm tired of people asking. Hat maker.
So we're gonna make this.
My
No.
maiden name was Glover.
Oh, you should have been friends with Jen.
Oh,
Not as
there's a guy
straightforward
for a
as hand
voiceover,
warmer
Will
maker.
Glover.
Hey,
Danny?
Danny.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna do my recommend now.
Oh,
Sorry, Megan.
It's fine. It's fine. So Jen recommended this book called Professional Troublemaker. And I am currently still reading it, but she talks about that the professional troublemaker is someone who critiques the world, their shoddy systems, and the people who refuse to do better.
Their what systems?
Shoddy.
that a boomer word?
SHODDY.
Shoddy.
Restaurant. Who are you, Avery?
Avery.
Just trying to make sure I didn't have to do some editing later.
And the
Shout
author
out.
of the book is Lovey Jones.
Hatmaker.
Yes.
Lovey Jones Hatmaker.
Yes.
Love it. Like that sounds like something I would call my grandma. I love it.
Might be. You never know.
Hey.
Lovey
She's
Jones
Nigerian,
Hatmaker.
so she has a
Oh.
really cool middle name,
Ah.
but everybody just calls her Lovey Jones.
How did Hatmaker score being mentored by Brene Brown?
So if you haven't seen this, it's kind of all over, but Jen and her husband divorced.
Right, I remember this.
And so she's been going through a lot of different things, and I guess she does a vlog on Instagram once a week. And a couple weeks ago, she said, "Well, Brene told me I was reading these books, so I'm not sure. Maybe they were already friends. That would be really cool.
Well,
just
she decided to be
call
very
up my friend
vulnerable
Brene,
through
Yeah.
her divorce.
yeah, she definitely
So to
did.
be mentored by Brene, you have to get divorced first.
So she'd never really talked about Brene before.
Not that I had seen.
Good on her.
She writes
She
her own
didn't
books
flex
and-
being, interacting with a
No.
famous
Yeah.
person.
No,
to
she's
increase her
never
brand.
really been that way, even when they were on TV.
Props.
I know.
All right. Well, you guys want to hear a fun fact?
What's that?
I'll tell you later.